Welcome back. Dr. Sam Amadi joins us now to discuss the future of Britain as it concerns Brexit. Dr. Amadi, thank you for joining us on Diplomatic Channel. Do you think that at this time that Britain is definitely leaving the European Union?
Yes, I think they will. I think they are leaving. I think surviving the vote of confidence also means that the government, Theresa May, will continue to do two things: to try to see if EU will bend backward to accommodate perhaps an improved deal, or worst case, no deal, and they'll leave the EU. Obviously, nothing has changed to negate the deadline of March 29th.
Well, what do you think Mrs. May should do if her plan B does not pull through with the House of Commons, which is she's currently working on a plan B, and they're supposed to agree on that? What happens if that doesn't come through?
Well, if plan B doesn't, don't forget that this plan is to make the exit more acceptable, convenient for both EU and Britain. So if plan B may work. Of course, plan B would obviously not include the troublesome backstop, the Irish deal, perhaps a little bit of that secures more of British independence from the EU and reduce some of the linkages and perhaps control measures that some of those who voted for Brexit don't want. However, if Plan B doesn't work, Plan B is perhaps the last effort to try to see if the divorce is less messy and perhaps restore a little bit more linkage between Europe and Britain. But if it doesn't work, then that means Britain will wait for a major divorce. And what that means, for example, is that some of the British citizens in Spain and elsewhere would now consider themselves as if they are in North America or as if they are in Africa. But essentially, it looks like nothing short of a vote of no confidence and a forced referendum to re-vote on the exit. Nothing short of that would avert the exit by March 29th. Yeah.
Dr. Amadi, if you notice, many Britons now, when you ask them, you take a sample of what people are saying in London and in other parts of Britain, they're thinking that Britain at this time should not be making attempts to leave the European Union. Many of them are saying there should be a second referendum and so on. How does this make Mrs. May's job more difficult?
Well, first, it shows that there's a difference between the attitude on the street and that of the parliament. You see, it was a part of a populist move. There's a regret. Monday morning quarterbacking. The people have, after the Brexit, they have seen dimensions of losses that the exit location. So if you like, there's some rethink. But the problem is this: even the Conservative Party, the rebels, some would want a second take on the referendum. But it looks like the strong base of Theresa May don't want that, because just like in the US, there's a strong populist base that considers UK exit, a British exit, as part of some sense of nationalism, retaking back British sovereignty. If a deal that allows for Britain to exit and still maintain those positive ties with Europe, I think those who want Brexit to be happy. But what it looks like is that if you do a second referendum, it's possible that the vote will be no, don't exit. Because if you look at the result, it wasn't an overwhelming support for exit. It was some kind of slight victory, surprising one. So I think the major backers, the hench persons in the Conservative Party who wanted this sense of reclaiming British sovereignty. Also, the issue around European legal system, the fact that British policy could be overruled in Brussels by the European court is also an issue. So these are some of the complex anxiety. It's not clear really what they want. You want to have a UK uniqueness, at the same time you want to share the benefits of common currency, common economic policy that an EU membership gives. So I think at best the British citizens are conflicted. They would want to still enjoy the benefit of belonging to EU. At the same time, a segment of it wants to be free from those cultural control, those liberal control of Brussels and from the other centers of legal control in EU. So we're not too sure. If you go for a referendum, perhaps the exit will lose. But as it is now, they are fighting back. No second referendum. They don't want a second referendum.
Speaking of the United States, it was President Donald Trump who also encouraged Theresa May to go ahead with the Brexit deal. He feels Britain will be stronger by itself. But this is the same Donald Trump who last year said that, America wouldn't be, that eager to do trade with Britain outside of the EU, that it would be bad for America's own economy. Do you think that the EU and countries like the United States mean well for Britain as it leaves the European Union?
I think, in a way, Trump has these two sets of minds. One is this: he of course, he is just exploiting the populist movement and underlying sentiment in the U.S. Of course, his business brain knows that Britain is better in the EU with a bigger market, with greater fiscal control and support in times of crisis. But what he's doing, I think, is playing to the base when he accused Theresa May of slowing down. Britain should exit. But at the same time, he knows that Britain is better off. So, do they mean well for British? I think essentially they will say that some of the neocons and some of the Christian right in America thinks that Britain is doing the right thing to stave off immigration, to stave off Islamization in their own sense. But on the side of those who understand the market, the more liberal Americans, they would think that this is a wrong move. Ultimately, it depends on what you're looking. If you're looking at the idea of the taking of controlling liberalism and checkmating immigration and stopping so-called Britain losing its character, then you will say, oh, good deal. But if you're looking at the sense of a modern world where the EU has now become a major economic benefit to British citizens in terms of trade, in terms of trading among EU, and in terms of other economic and social benefits, then it's a bad idea, and therefore they don't mean well for the British. But it depends on what you're looking at, and I think sizable members of American community would sympathize with Theresa May in this what she's doing now, trying to square a circle, as it were, to eat a cake and still have it.
Yeah, and speaking of the wider world, how do you think Brexit will affect Britain's allies in other parts of the world, for example, Nigeria?
Well, what it means, it might be a double-edged sword. If Britain leaves the EU without a good deal, then they are pushed under pressure to negotiate better trade arrangements with countries like Nigeria. They are traditional allies in Africa, in the Middle East, and of course in the Americas. It might be, you might see Britain, worst case, coming to seek for some honorary membership of the African Union. All those deals are trying to deepen their control. So essentially, if you lose EU, lose all the trade advantages, then you might want to have a favored preferential treatment and favored status outside the EU. And so we can see a boom in British trade deals with Africa, with Middle East, and of course the Americas. That would be one aspect of it. The second aspect of it might be also that some of the other countries that have used linkage with Britain to explore European market will now find that they also have to carry the wrong end of the stick, because the Commonwealth will not offer us perhaps greater inroad into EU. So Britain out of EU would mean some loss for those who depend or who free ride on relationship with Britain to access some other benefits in EU. So it's a two-way sword. It gives us perhaps a greater focus in Britain. It gives us greater importance in the British market in terms of exploring new trading partners outside the EU.
Dr. Sam Amadi, thank you so much for speaking with us on Diplomatic Channel.
Thank you very much.
Britain is counting weeks until March 29th, the leave date from the European Union. Tell us what you think. You can reach me on Twitter at Amarachi_Ubani and at Channels TV. I am Amarachi Ubani. I'll see you next time.